You work hard, pay the bills, try to save some at the end of the month. Sometimes it even succeeds. Other times, no. You studied, he went to college, he got a better job than his parents, but even so, you have the feeling that it's not going anywhere. Money comes in and goes out. You move up in position, your salary increases, but the stress also increases. The bills don't go down, debts don't go away, and what was supposed to be security became just more pressure. I've already seen this film. Often, the middle class is the engine of the economy. He works harder than everyone else. Pay taxes, consume, move everything, but it is also the one that suffers the most. Do you know why? Because he plays a game without knowing you are playing. There is a silent trap in this system. She doesn't scream, she whispers. She tells you, now that you earn more, you deserve that car. You work so hard, you deserve that bigger house. You only live once. Enjoy it now. And when you realize it, you're already trapped, stuck in installments, trapped in a standard of living that demands your entire salary, stuck in a fear, the fear of falling back to where you started. Because if you keep doing what everyone else does, it will end like everyone else ends, working until the end of your life. Afraid of losing my job, and depending on a government that may not be able to support you, the middle class needs another way out. And this exit starts with a simple decision. I don't want to look rich. I want to be free. There is an image that society sells and that many people buy without realizing it. She says that to win in life, you need to look like a winner. You need to have a better car, a bigger house, a new cell phone every year. You need to dress like someone successful and post this so everyone knows. And so day after day, month after month, the trap closes. I call this rat race you run, but it doesn't get anywhere. You work all month to pay for things you bought with money I didn't have to impress people who don't even care. And you know what's most curious? You think you're winning because he sees his life improving. The problem is what you're calling best may be exactly what's keeping you taken. The trap doesn't come from a single bad decision. It comes from the sum of all automatic decisions, those that you no longer question. Buying things just because you deserve them. Changing cars just because the old one is already 2 years old. Taking on debt to maintain a standard that was never yours. It's like a leak in the ceiling. At first you ignore it, but one day the ceiling collapses. Financial freedom starts with a choice. Break with the logic of appearance. You don't need a better car, need a better plan. You need assets, not liabilities, of conscious decisions, not impulsive ones. And most importantly, it takes courage to say no to what everyone else is saying yes. You can get out of the rat race, but first you need to stop running in the wrong direction. Those who run for status end up tired. Those who walk with purpose get. Many people think that wealth comes from a special talent, from a stroke of luck. A brilliant idea, but most of the time the real difference is in the way of thinking. Buffett didn't escape the middle class trap because he was born rich. He escaped because he understood very early on that most people live as slaves to financial habits disguised as normality, and he decided to do it differently. While the majority increased their standard of living as their income rose, Buffett did the opposite. He stabilized the standard of living and increased investment standards. He never cared about expensive cars, designer clothes, or useless luxuries. And it wasn't because he was cheap, it was because he knew that every dollar spent on vanity was a dollar that stopped multiplying over time. I remember a phrase he often repeated: spend what's left after investing. Don't invest what's left after spending. This simple reversal changes everything. Most people spend first and then see if there is anything left to invest. Buffett did the opposite, invested before. He lived with what was left. This is the real secret to financial freedom. It doesn't start with a higher salary, it starts with smarter priorities. While people bought things that lost value in the next second, Buffett bought businesses he understood that assets produce and liabilities consume. Therefore, he spent less than he could. Not out of fear, but for long-term vision. When you understand how compound interest works, you start to protect every penny as if it were a seed, because you know that over time that seed can grow into a tree, and later an entire orchard. Buffett didn't need to look rich because he knew that I was already rich. in time, in freedom, and in choices. This way of thinking kept him away from the traps. Not because he was better, but because he was more intentional. He thought before acting, calculate before spending, and he made choices today that would serve his freedom tomorrow. You don't have to be a genius to do this. You just need to change the logic that controls your financial life, because the truth is simple. Either you control your habits or your habits control your life. And Buffett chose with discipline and clarity that his habits would lead him to freedom, no to appearance. If you've made it this far, you might be thinking, all this is beautiful, but what about me? What can I do if I'm already stuck in this gear? The good news is that there is a way out. And my news, it requires more courage than you might think. Courage to do what most don't do. Because escaping the trap doesn't start with earning more. It starts with change the way you think about money. The first step is simple but painful. Recognize that the enemy is invisible. It's not your salary that's holding you back. It's how you deal with it. The installments are too long. Expenses that have become routine. Comparisons with those who live beyond their means. You are not stuck with a lack of money. You're stuck with that money represents for you. And this is the first chain that needs to be broken. The second step, pay yourself first. Before paying any bill, set aside a portion, no matter how small, to build your freedom. It could be 5%, 10%. It doesn't matter. What matters is habit, because anyone who expects to have leftover money to invest never starts. The secret is not in the amount. It's in discipline. Third step, get rid of the illusion. You don't need the most expensive cell phone, not even the car of the year, not even that outfit, just because it's fashionable. You need tranquility to sleep peacefully. Have a reserve for emergencies. Have a plan that works even if the world turns upside down. Middle class needs to stop trying to look like the rich and start acting like the rich in truth. And do you know what the real rich do? Avoid bad debts. They buy assets, maintain a standard of living below what they could afford. They think about the long term. Sounds simple, it's because it is. But the world around you will do everything it can to convince you otherwise. You will need stamina, because everything will try to pull you back into the trap. Marketing, social networks, comparison with neighbors, the fear of being left behind. But remember, most people are not going anywhere. Getting behind them might be the best thing you ever do. Financial freedom is available, but it only reveals itself to those who decide to break the cycle. You may be the first generation in your family to not depend on your next paycheck. It could be the one who broke the pattern, who built a new path. It could be the one who one day will look back and say, I escaped. And that starts with a simple decision. Don't live to appear. There comes a time when you need to choose. You want to keep trying, look rich, or do you actually want to be booked, because they are different paths. And almost always opposites of parents' demands. Consumption requires approval. It traps you in a game of external expectations that never ends. Freedom, on the other hand, that requires consciousness, and often it requires silence, because whoever is at peace with what they have, you don't need to prove anything to anyone. Buffett could have bought any car, any house, anything, but he chose to live simply, not out of scarcity, but out of conviction. He understood something that few understand. Freedom is not having everything. It is not depending on any. Most live as if their next paycheck is always guaranteed, as if nothing could change, as if time was on your side. But time only works for those who respect him, and the money only grows in the hands of those who treat it wisely. So I ask you, will you continue in the rat race, trying to maintain a life that demands everything from you and gives you little in return? Or will you start building today a life that doesn't depend on appearance but on consistency? Because in the end, it's not about the car you drive. It's about the peace of mind of knowing that if it breaks, you won't break it with it. It's not about the house you show. It's about the home you sustain with peace.